Hello and welcome back to another student interview. Today we've got Rosario. He's a student of the Six-Figure Accelerator program. And yeah, today we're just going to sit down and have a quick chat. Not going to be super long, but we're just going to dive into Rosario's journey, starting his agency, signing his first few clients, and getting to the point he's at now where he's making a decent, comfortable wage, right? And it's something that he's obviously super passionate about himself. So we hope you get a ton of value from this video. And to you, Rosario, thank you for coming on, my man.
Hey Adam, thanks for having me. Happy to talk to you today, and maybe I hope some people will get value from it.
For sure, man. I'm sure they will. I've spoke to you many times, and I can tell I learn a lot from you as well because you've got a different perspective to me and the way you look at things. So people are definitely going to enjoy this one. So I think there's no better place to start it off than just to give people an insight into where you're currently at with your agency and where you were before you started. So when did you start? When did you get your first client? What stage are you at now? And yeah, just to get that general insight into the business.
I started with Adam's program like I think it's now 3 months, something like this. So before for since like 2017, I've been working in e-commerce, social media, like the whole digital world. Actually a lot of different things. So I was working at an e-commerce startup, then I worked in an agency, and then I did freelancing. But I never like took it to the next level where I started, automating a lead process and also especially outsourcing. So that was like that idea came 100% from seeing Adam's content, and then I just um, took the next step and learned how to start and run an agency, and right now I'm full time. Like I started doing it a little bit on the side because I also have my freelance stuff, but I've been pushing my freelance work into the agency as well. So yeah, right now I'm doing it full time, and yeah, it's going pretty good so far.
Awesome, man. And how many clients have you got right now? And like, how many have you worked with, let's just say in the 3 months that you've started the agency?
So right now I'm at 10 clients,
Nice.
and like actually they're all the ones that I signed. Like so it's they're still with me from like that's I still have all the clients that I signed during this
Awesome.
time.
That's what we like to hear, man. 10 clients that
Yeah,
have stayed with you for, between 3 and probably 2 months, depending on when they
yeah,
signed up, right?
yeah, yeah. So I because
Nice.
I focus a lot on keeping them happy.
Yeah.
Um, because I actually have some people who are already saying like, hey, I have this friend who is also running a business, and because of referrals are always a
Nice.
super powerful thing as well. So that's yeah, some
Awesome, man.
like the customer experience and like their happiness is what I'm concentrating on.
I love it,
So
man. I
big
love it.
big big focus on this happy customer, happy
Yeah.
happy me, happy
Exactly,
business.
exactly, man. Yeah, because like the way I look at it is like you gotta get clients, which can be hard, to get your first few clients. And the easiest way to make more money is to keep your clients happy. It's
Yeah.
literally the easiest way. It's easier to
Also,
keep a client happy than to sign a new one.
yeah. Also, it increases your confidence
Hmm.
during the process, because then
Yeah,
you're getting on calls and you just. I mean, you can always obviously you can just lie or whatever, but if you just can be super honest and confident that you're providing good work, I think people catch up, like they will
yeah.
understand, or they just see how you're acting, and they will be confident in hiring you. So
Definitely,
that's
definitely. And
an
like
important
that's
thing.
that's a really important one, Rosario, because like when you're starting, when I started, right? Like that was a big doubt in my mind of like, why would people pay me? Like why would they not pay someone who's done this for 10 years already? Like why are they going to pay the new guy on the scene? And that really comes from a lack of confidence, right? If you haven't run an agency before, it's a scary thought to do it for the first time. So like you said, anything you can do to improve your confidence will actually help you get more clients and build your business faster because confidence
For sure.
shows, if you have confidence, you're going to show up every day. You're going to do the work, right? Because you're confident in what you do. If you're not, you're just going to sit back and do nothing. So that's a really, really key point. And that's a point that I know a lot of people struggle with. So really glad you brought that one up, man. And one thing I want to dive into is, going from freelancing to the agency model. I'd love to get your opinion. Like, what was difficult? What was easy? What was the biggest change? Because for me, there's a lot of things I had to learn. I freelanced for a good few months before I started the agency, and it's a completely different business. Let's be honest. Yes, as a freelancer, you sign clients and you do some work. And as an agency owner, you sign clients and do some work, but it's very different. Freelancer, you do everything. Agency, you start to bring other people and outsource the work.
So for me, the hardest part, or like the thing that I was scared a little bit of, was this whole customer acquisition thing. Because before, when I worked with different companies and like the e-commerce thing, I kind of always worked with like with people from my network. So it's like, hey, I know this guy and he refers me, so this kind of thing. So it was never cold outreach. So I was never actively looking for new customers. And like this whole thing of being the salesman and getting on calls and closing the clients and things like that, that was a little bit, I was not super scared, but I was a little bit nervous about it. And I think that's something that maybe is good to hear for people who are starting, because maybe the first 2-3 calls will be a little bit like you will be nervous, but now I'm just getting on the calls like super, chill, and people
awesome.
Like people also see like they understand if you're confident on what you do. So that's like we just talked about it. So yeah. Also, I'm actually pretty introverted, so I don't like to talk to new people all the time. So, but now I got used to it. But yeah, I think that whole Zoom thing, and like you don't have to meet people that much anymore with all the COVID things. So people are super used to just getting calls, and that's good for people like me because we can just be in our safe space behind the computer,
I agree, man. I agree. Like I'm the same. I'm naturally introverted. A lot of people would think I'm extroverted because I have a YouTube channel and a TikTok and I coach people. I'm an introvert, true and true. Same as you, man. I found the exact same thing. Like getting on my first few Zoom calls, man, I was so nervous. You know what I mean? I was like 30 minutes early to the call, just waiting, and just like wringing my hands, checking my phone, doing anything to distract myself. So I can totally relate with you on that, man. And glad you brought that up, because again, a lot of people, I think when they see agency owners, they think you have to be outgoing, you got to be extroverted, you got to be like this big, fancy salesman who knows all the tricks and all the tactics in the book. You don't. You just have to be confident in what you do. You got to follow a proven process and you can do it. You don't have to be super outgoing.
Yeah, and it can absolutely be the other way around, right? Like you could be super confident in being the salesman, but you're maybe not that experienced with, I don't know, running social media for someone or whatever. But you will learn on the way. Definitely. Like, you're just figuring it out on the way. Like you just have to be confident that you will figure it out at some point. Like that's the approach that I had. I was just like, hey, I'm just like because I was super confident in my work, but I was, like I said, I was a little bit with being the salesman. I was not that super confident at the beginning. So yeah, that's because if someone listens to this and he's like, for me, it's actually the other way around. That's fine too. Or 100%. Maybe it will be, I don't know, someone who's like, I hate, I don't know, managing teams or looking for, I don't know, whatever. Like there's always something you're struggling with, but that's a good thing in the end. Like you will learn to handle.
Definitely, man. It's the best mindset, right? Is just do it and then figure it out, because you're never going to have everything figured out. It's never going to be perfect. It's never going to be the perfect time. So if you just start, you will make progress, right? Because you'll figure it out as you go. That's really damn important, man. And when it comes to, on the more technical side, of what service you provide, what exactly do you provide, Rosario? Is it just one service? Is it a couple different services? And is it the same package, or do you have different packages for different clients?
So right now I have the two main things that are social media management and online store optimizations, because as I said before, my background is in e-commerce. So I know both sides. I know running brands yourself, being at like the company side, like the shop, the online store owner side, also being the agency who runs paid media for them, or optimizing their stores, or like the whole package from social media to Google, whatever it be. So yeah, like I had all of this, and right now the two main things I have is online store optimizations and social media management. And then there's some small things, like there's someone that I do Pinterest as well for, and then other guys where I just do Instagram. But I like long term, I want to keep it super basic, that it's just one channel and then maybe that one service. So it's that I can scale, because the easier it is, obviously it's easier. Like the simpler the services are, the simpler it's to scale. That's what I mean. So yeah, like right now I have the two main things, and then some small changes here and there, but long term it will be one channel, one service for the store, for sure.
Nice. I like that,
I'm
man. I
still
like that.
yeah, I'm still figuring this out, because looking where the niche works better, where it's easy, because in the end you have to see where it's the easiest to find new clients, where you can do long term, where the revenue is good, where you can build the right teams. And yeah, that's as well, learning while doing.
Definitely, man. Definitely. Like, I think a lot of people think you must have perfect service, perfect niche when starting. You don't. It helps if you do, because, like you mentioned, it is easier to scale. It's easier to hire people to do the work if it's the same service and the same niche. But like many people start off and they have, 5 clients in 5 different niches or 3 different services. And that's okay. The main thing is that, like you said, you do it, you learn which ones work the best, which ones are the easiest to deliver, and then you just fine tune that as you start to grow and scale to that next level. And I want to actually just go back a little bit, Rosario, like with sales, right? So obviously you mentioned that this was kind of like the bit you were a little bit scared of or a little bit apprehensive about. I was similar. Okay. This was very daunting and quite scary for me. So was there anything that helped you be more confident with your first couple of calls? Did you have any kind of, for example, ritual before a call where you would like maybe look through the client's social media, right, before coming on the call? Like, what was your process that made you just get on the call, perform? Did you follow a script? Did you not follow a script? Just any of your thoughts around sales, because I know for most people watching this, sales is going to be the trickiest bit for most people. It's the scariest, it's the most daunting, and it can be a tough one to nail at the beginning stage. So yeah, man, let us know what you have to share when it comes to sales.
So my approach with sales, well, I think it's two parts. So the first part is, for me, it was just reminding myself, like concentrating on the positive things, like, like, hey man, what your experience is, you can actually, help people scale, how to build brands, how to optimize stores. For me, it was like, hey, don't worry about being awkward on the call or whatever, because you actually have value to give, and in the end, that's what you're trying to do. Like, you're getting on the call and you're giving value a little bit, so people understand, like they get that you know what you're talking about, and then they will be more confident and keep working with you, or whatever it might be. So that, and then, like, that's the first thing. Like, don't concentrate on negative things, like, hey, I don't want to be weird, or like, I'm stressed about this. I was just really trying to be positive and focusing on this. In terms of like sales strategies and all these things, I haven't gone into that a lot. Like all like these books or special strategies, which some people might do as well. But I think it's more important that you are confident and you concentrate on what you know, because if you're just starting out and you're already nervous and you're not a salesperson, or maybe you're an introvert as well, you won't be like, you're not performing all these strategies that you're reading, like that. There's no way you will remember all of this. Like it takes so much practice,
Definitely.
So yeah, I really just try to get on a good flow, and like, if you start talking like and you concentrate on just giving some value, you forget that you are actually not some professional salesman.
Definitely.
So yeah,
Definitely, man.
yeah.
That reminds me, when I started Rosario, so before I started my agency, right? Like I had thought about it for like a really long time. So at least a year before I started, I was thinking about it. And what I did was I like built out this really long script, this big sales script, right? And it was like super salesy, super like, hey, business owner, if I can guarantee that I can make you an extra X, Y, and Z per month, will you say yes on this call? And that's how the call would start, right?
Yeah.
Obviously,
and
that didn't work.
People hate that.
Absolutely hate it. People hate it. And for you as a beginner, if you're not super confident, you're, like you said, you're not going to be able to do that. You can't follow that with a straight face without kind of thinking that you're an imposter or that that's not really you. So I think your advice is great. Just do what you do, give value, ask questions, remind yourself with kind of like positive reinforcements of what you do know and not what you don't know, and just learn as you do. It's like the best advice for sales. You don't have to be an expert. You just have to show up and do it. Because if you do 10 sales calls, like you will either close a client or at least you'll know what you shouldn't do on the next call.
Yeah.
Simple
and
as.
you will find out by time what they all want.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Way more important than doing some sales strategies, it's to understand what your perfect potential, like the persona that you're trying to sign, what their problems are, what they're like. There's this one podcast, I don't remember the name, and they're always saying like, you have to understand what keeps your client up at night, like what's their deepest problem that they're wondering every day, like, hey, how can I solve this? So if you're doing social media, it can be like, hey, they're really struggling in growing their audience, or like in the end, it's always sales, right? Like in the end, they all want to grow their business, but then there's some sub problems and challenges to that, and you're trying to figure out, depending on your niche, what this problem is, and then you're going falling on the niche and the output, because in the end, you're selling them not social media management, you're selling them, grow your business. I think that's something you should always keep in mind, that always give them the benefit, the output that they get.
Definitely. Love that, man. Love that. Always sell the outcome, the benefit, not what you're going to do. Because what you're going to do doesn't really matter to them. It's not so much about what you do, it's about what result are you going to get.
Yeah, absolutely. Nice. And sometimes I have people who don't really understand what you're doing anyway.
Yeah.
and if you're confident, they're like, they hear the outcome, and then they don't care that, like, of course they want to understand what you're doing a little bit, but in the end they just want to have the results.
Definitely, man. And I guess kind of like a final point I want to touch on is, do you focus on clients in Germany, where you're currently based and where you're from, or do you work with clients, on a global scale? I get asked this question a lot from people who are interested in moving into this space, Rosario, and a lot of people who reach out to me who are from maybe somewhere in Europe or somewhere where they're not fluent English. They don't feel comfortable. They simply don't feel comfortable reaching out to businesses in the US or in America or in Canada, because they feel like, oh, well, I'm not an English speaker. They might just, not listen to me. What kind of advice would you give to people like that? And do you actually work with clients in different countries, or what does that currently look like?
So for me, from the beginning, for me, it was a no-brainer to go globally. Like
Yeah.
I just have actually one client from Germany, like the rest is UK and USA.
Nice.
So for me, that was because I was already working with the freelance thing internationally, and I think for me it just sounded more interesting to get people from everywhere. I mean, in the beginning, I had the same thoughts like, hey, I'm not a native speaker, maybe, and then you're getting on a call with someone from the UK or whatever, and then like I had this thing in mind that I don't sound that you know, like a professional in what I do because I don't speak the language. But I think like if you're speaking, you know, like the basic English, you shouldn't worry about it, because like I was getting on calls with just native English speakers, and like all of them were always, you know, like, hey, you English, because sometimes I was, you know, joking a little bit like, hey, I hope my English is fine, you know, I'm sorry if something sounds wrong or whatever, and they're always like, hey, I think your English is great, you know. Nice. So really depends on, like, obviously maybe some people have different levels of English, but I would just say go for it. And if you're confident in what you're, like, the service you're providing, then it doesn't really matter, right?
Hell yeah, man. Couldn't agree more. Go global. There's way more money in the world rather than the country you live in. Yeah, 100%. Cool, man. That's been good, man. I think there's been a ton of value that you've dropped there. We've touched on a lot of things that we've never touched on before in any interview. So this is a exclusive Rosario interview with nuggets of wisdom and advice. So awesome stuff, man. Really appreciate you sharing that. And if you do want to drop, you know, whether it's like your LinkedIn or your Instagram page or even your website, feel free to do that now before we end this, so that if people do want to connect with you, they know where to find you and where to see you, your journey, and what you're up to.
I think I'm not that active right now. I think I'm going to be more active on LinkedIn in the future.
Cool, man.
But you can just add me at Rosario Bugia. Maybe we need to, but it's going to be in the title, right? So
we'll write it down.
So yeah, because maybe people don't know how to spell it.
yeah.
But yeah, you can just type in this name. There are not that many Rosarios, so it's gonna be, you're gonna find me.
Easy to find. Very unique name.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, appreciate it, man. It's been awesome. And for everyone watching, hope you got some value. Definitely reach out to Rosario if you have any, if any questions, or if you just want to say thanks to him for hopping on today and giving his advice. And we will see you all in the next video.